Power does not always assert itself. Sometimes it settles. When dependency forms, power freezes into position without conflict. Nothing dramatic occurs. No confrontation is required. No coercion is visible. The system simply stops moving. Dependency alters structure. At the beginning of most relationships or arrangements, positions are fluid. Each side retains alternatives. Each side can exit without collapse. Because exit is possible, influence remains balanced. This balance does not require equality, it requires substitutability. As long as both sides can replace what they receive, power remains soft. Dependency changes this. Dependency forms when one side becomes harder to replace than the other. Not emotionally. Structurally, resources concentrate, access narrows, alternatives disappear. The system does not announce this shift. It does not require intention. It emerges through repetition. One side adapts more, one side compromises more. One side reorganizes around continuity. Over time, the cost of disruption becomes asymmetric. This asymmetry is power. Power does not need to be used to exist. Once embedded, it becomes positional. The dependent side adjusts preemptively. Requests soften, expectations lower, risk-taking declines. Not because of fear, because the system has learned where fragility sits. The dominant side does not need to demand. The system already knows what cannot be challenged. This is why dependency freezes power without conflict. Conflict requires uncertainty. Dependency removes it. Once outcomes depend more on one side than the other, leverage shifts permanently. This shift is quiet. The relationship continues. Communication remains polite. No abuse occurs. And yet influence has disappeared. The dependent side still speaks, but speech no longer carries consequence. This is often misread as harmony. It is not. It is positional lock-in. The system has decided whose preferences matter more. This decision is not moral. It is logistical. Dependency reduces optionality. Optionality is leverage. When optionality disappears, power stabilizes. This applies beyond personal relationships. In workplaces, dependency forms when income, identity, and future access concentrate in one role. Once that concentration occurs, negotiation ends quietly. Requests are still made. They are simply filtered. The dependent side avoids disruption. They manage around constraint. The powerful side does not need to escalate. The system already favors continuity. This is why power often feels invisible to the person holding it. Nothing is demanded, nothing is enforced. The other side self-regulates. This self-regulation is often mistaken for agreement. It is not. It is adaptation. Dependency trains adaptation. Over time, the dependent side loses practice asserting preference, not because assertion is forbidden, because assertion no longer works. The system does not respond. This non-response teaches restraint. Restraint becomes habit. Habit becomes identity. The dependent side begins to experience their own limits as personal traits. Being easygoing, being low maintenance, being flexible. These descriptions obscure structure. The flexibility is not voluntary, it is positional. Dependency also removes the need for justification. When power is contested, reasons are required. When power is frozen, reasons disappear. Decisions simply happen. The dependent side may still ask why, but why no longer changes anything. This is why dependency often feels confusing rather than oppressive. There is no clear moment of loss. The loss occurred gradually, as alternatives narrowed. Dependency rarely forms through a single decision. It forms through accumulated reliance, one favor at a time, one accommodation at a time, one deferred need at a time. Each instance is rational. Together, they create immobility. Once immobility exists, power no longer needs expression. It is embedded. This is why dependency produces stability without satisfaction. The system is calm, but not balanced. Balance requires reversible positions. Dependency makes positions sticky. Sticky positions resist renegotiation. This resistance is not hostility, it is inertia. Inertia is enough. Attempts to rebalance after dependency forms often fail, not because the other side refuses, but because the system no longer supports reciprocity. Reciprocity requires mutual leverage. Dependency removes it. This is why late boundary setting often feels ineffective. The request is reasonable. The structure is not. The system hears the request as noise. It does not update behavior. The dependent side experiences this as dismissal. The dominant side experiences it as confusion. Neither experience explains the outcome. Position does. Dependency also freezes emotional range. The dependent side limits expression to avoid destabilizing the system. The dominant side receives fewer signals. Over time, misunderstanding grows. Not because communication failed, because incentives changed. The system now rewards silence over accuracy. Accuracy threatens stability. Stability protects access. Access has become critical. This is the core mechanism. Dependency elevates access above expression. Once access becomes central, power settles. No conflict is required. This explains why many power imbalance systems feel peaceful until they end. Peace was purchased with silence. When the system eventually breaks, it appears sudden. But the freeze happened long before. The ending only reveals what had been static. This dynamic also explains why dependency is hard to perceive from inside. The system still functions. Needs are met. Life continues. What is missing is influence. Influence disappears without pain. At first. Later, dissatisfaction appears without cause. The dependent side senses loss but cannot locate it. They look for emotional explanations. They look for communication failures. The cause is positional. Once dependency freezes power, change requires structural disruption. Conversation does not restore leverage. Understanding does not rebalance position. Only alternative access can. Until then, the system remains stable and unequal. This is not abuse. It is not manipulation. It is structural gravity. Systems settle into configurations that minimize risk. Dependency reduces risk for one side. It increases risk for the other. The system chooses the safer configuration. This choice is automatic. When structure changes, effort appears to work. In systems like this, position determines influence long before conflict appears. Within this structure, no amount of calm communication can redistribute power once dependency has fixed it. Power did not need to be taken. It became immobile.